Okay, so this might be a short video, and the reason why, because we're going to see X-Men finally meet another character from his reality. Because remember, when it comes to Nate Gray, yes, he is technically the counterpart to Nathan Summers, better known as Cable, but for Nate Gray, he comes from a different reality, the Age of Apocalypse reality. Now, to Nate Gray, he believes at this point in time that he is the sole survivor of his reality. In reality, he's still trying to figure out where in the world is he. He does not fully understand that he's in a completely different reality at the moment. But for Nate Gray, he has not truly met anybody from his old reality until this two-part story arc. Now, in our last video for Nate Gray, he had met Madeline prior, and really in that short period of time that he was able to spend with her, he kind of built a bond with her where technically he was kind of in love with her. But either way, she had left with Celine, leaving him alone once again. And so you had Nate get a job to be a handyman on this sea cruiser. Now, while trying to be a handyman, you do have this young woman wanting to hit on Nate. And for Nate, he's like, hey, I'm single and I do need someone here to kind of distract me from missing Madeline. But he also remembers that he's not allowed to kind of mess with the guests on a sea cruiser. And so he does kind of decline her offer to have some alone time. But at the same time, it seems like he does not want to get involved with anybody else. Still somewhat heartbroken to me when it comes to missing Madeline. Now, for a brief moment, we jump over to a character known as Blaquesmith. Now, Blaquesmith is just like Cable from the far future. As a matter of fact, both characters are from the same clan, better known as the Ascani. Now, for Blaquesmith, he was sent back in time to kind of continue to watch over Cable. But the problem was that over time, he had detected someone very similar to Cable. And of course, that would be Nate Gray. And so for Blaquesmith, he wants to investigate this new signal that he's currently picking up at the moment. But as we transition back over to Nate Gray, we're really seeing more Nate Gray enjoying the food and the drinks on the boat, which is really meant more for the guests on the ship. But like for Nate Gray says, heck, why not? And so he goes ahead and eats and drinks a lot of food in one session. Now, you do have other crew members see him and they do try to stop him, but he begins to use his powers against him and kind of realize what he's doing right now is completely wrong. And so he does use his powers to make every single crew member on the boat completely forget what they had just saw when they came to him using his powers against, well, them. Now, there is another character we have to talk about, and that'll be a character known as Rex. Now, when it comes to Rex, he works for the Sugar Man, one of the other characters who came into this reality from the Age of Apocalypse reality. Let me explain. See, when it came to the very end of the Age of Apocalypse reality, you had the Mcron crystal being able to send a few characters over into this reality. Now, the first two were Dark Beast and also Sugar Man, and they had arrived 20 years in the past. But Holocaust, the son of Apocalypse from the Age of Apocalypse reality, and also X-Men, they had arrived in the present day. But Sugar Man realized how powerful Nate is and wanted him for himself. And so he sent Rex to hopefully complete the job, to bring him over to Sugar Man. Now, for Nate Gray, when he does wake up after his lovely time drinking and eating, he does see his reflection in the mirror, except he has this image appear where it does look like he's slowly dying off. He's just skins and bones, and that's really it. Now, once he's able to see his reflection once again, he does look normal again. Now, for Nate, he begins to walk around the boat to kind of see how the rest of the crew is doing, except when he walks outside, he realized that every other member of the crew has been killed off, and of course has been killed off by Rex. But this leads into a battle between the two characters. Now, while you do have the two characters battling against one another, you didn't have Nate kind of learn from Rex here that Rex was sent here to grab Nate for the Sugar Man. Now, for Nate, he has no idea who the Sugar Man is. As a matter of fact, when it came to our coverage over Age of Apocalypse, it's really well known that for Nate Gray, he'd never met the Sugar Man at all. And so for Nate, he has no idea who Rex is even talking about. But it does get to the point where you do have Rex being able to get his gun right underneath the chin of Nate Gray. And Nate really can't do anything at all. And so it does seem like Nate is going to die. Now, if you're probably wondering if Nate's supposed to be a stronger version of Cable, then why is he struggling so hard when it comes to Rex, somebody who's not really that powerful? Don't worry, the next chapter kind of explains why Nate is not really able to reach his full potential. But either way, at the very last second, you do have Nate be saved by the person who's going to explain everything to us, and that would be Dark Beast. And so as we dive into the next chapter, right off the bat, you have Dark Beast trying to explain things to Nate Gray. Like, hey, listen, you and I are from the same reality, the other Earth, the whole Earth called Age of Apocalypse. Now, here's the thing, because for Dark Beast, Nate Gray knows him very well, because while being near the pens, you heard people talk about Sinister, but also talk about Dark Beast, because in that other reality, for Dark Beast, Sinister was kind of like a mentor for him as well. Most of the things Dark Beast had learned came from Mr. Sinister. But either way, for Nate Gray, he knows what's up right now. That Dark Beast is trying to trick him so they can use him for his own personal gain. Now, let's not forget about Susan, the girl who hit on Nate Gray earlier. She's still on the boat, one of the last few survivors on the boat. But once she does walk outside, you do have Dark Beast grab her and use her as a hostage, but also kind of use her as an example. And here's the reason why. Because in the other reality, Age of Apocalypse, mutants were first class. Humans were second class. Now, that world was a very dark world. But Dark Beast is trying to explain that in this reality, things are completely different. Like, yes, it may look better for everyone here in this reality, but in reality, humans are first class, mutants are second class. And remember how mutants hunted humans down in the Age of Apocalypse reality. It's Dark Beast now saying it's the other way around. We as mutants are being hunted down by humans. We are hated on by humans left and right. And for Nate Gray, he does look into the mind of Susan and kind of realize what Dark Beast is saying is technically true. And right now it's her kind of freaking out because she's being held as a hostage by a mutant, and the guy she hit on earlier is, well, a mutant as well. Now, for Blaquesmith, he's still trying to figure out what's going on when it comes to Nate Gray, because for Blaquesmith, he remembers Strife. He remembers the clone of Cable without the techno-organic virus being in Strife. He saw how powerful Strife was. So now you are talking of the possibility of somebody else who's almost or possibly more powerful than Strife on Earth. But the rest of the book is really more a Dark Beast telling us why Nate Gray has been showing us weak spells or moments in time where he's not really able to continue to fight on at full strength, because Mr. Sinister had placed safeguards in the body of Nate Gray to make sure that just in case Nate Gray was able to take down Apocalypse over in the other reality, to make sure Nate Gray could still be somewhat controlled, because without Nate Gray being controlled, could the world actually handle someone who's more powerful than Apocalypse? Now, yes, Nate Gray is a good person, but the possibility of him turning evil and he's more powerful than Apocalypse would be a very dangerous thing to leave out there in the world. Now, with all that being said, you do have Nate Gray defeat Dark Beast, but then he remembers that there were a certain group of people who could possibly help him. And of course, he is thinking of the X-Men. And so now he's heading over to the home of the X-Men to see them for the first time in this reality.